6 takeaways from Keir Starmer's plan for change. Yeah, I can give you a good 6 takeaways from the plan for change. I mean, the BBC won't talk about these, but judging from the reaction of the general public on X, which is a far better source of news these days, you can probably guess them. Tax you till your balls throb. Continue to import staggering amounts of unvetted hairy-ass blokes from all 4 corners of the globe. Fail to build any houses. Continue locking up a targeted majority whilst privileging those from everywhere else aggressively because it's part of this cult, woke, religious ideology that you follow. Continue to look the other way when swarthy foreign gentlemen fold little girls up like deck chairs above greasy kebab shops up and down the country. And one more, what would that be? Oh yeah, continue to insist that if you take enough pills, a bloke can grow a cervix. There's a good 6 we can start with. Still, it's a better manifesto than the one that Ed Miliband chiselled into stone. Do you remember that one? Election 2015. Ed Miliband defends his pledge stone. And there it is there, look. Ed Miliband standing there looking like a proper gormless twat. He appears to be clutching a biro between his arse cheeks and there's some sort of horrifying giant stood to his left, like a cross between Dwayne Johnson and Whoopi Goldberg. So, I mean, yeah, it could be worse, couldn't it? And incidentally, if anyone's wondering where the Ed Stone is now, they smashed it up and used it to repave Fred West's back garden. At least 2 stereotypical Labour voters got some use out of it. Right then, X is a better source of news for this issue because the BBC just mealy-mouthed as usual, making excuses for him. I'll quickly blast through that and then I'll show you the actual opinions of the great British public. 6 takeaways from Keir Starmer's plan for change. Serpent Keir has set out his plan for change, 6 milestones he wants the voting public to measure his government against at the next election. Putting more money in the pockets of working people, there's about as much chance of that as there is of Jesus H. Christ resurrecting and walking into the next Labour conference, so happy with that. Building 1.5 million homes, physical impossibility. The mayor promised to build thousands of homes and he didn't manage a single one, obviously that being sad he can't. So there's about as much chance of that happening as the aforementioned Jesus H. Christ appearance. Treating 92% of NHS patients within 18 weeks, even though every week they import tens of thousands of new patients. Recruiting even more Rozzers. But the Rozzers never solve a burglary and don't actually respond to actual crime. They're just policing nasty tweets or Facebook posts. So that doesn't matter how many more. You could recruit 100,000 more. If they're not actually solving any real crimes, what good are they? Making sure 3/4 of 5-year-olds are school ready. 3/4 of 5-year-olds. Brilliant. And 95% clean power by 2030. And it all gets contradicted even in this BBC article. It's easy to get confused when Keir talks about what his government wants to do. They follow the 6 steps he set out in May, just before the election was called, and they're 6 milestones that are set against 5 missions that he set out in February 2023. Are you following this? It's like a counting lesson for children, isn't it? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many pledges has he made? And they're all about as worthwhile as the ones red Ed chiselled into some granite, i.e. completely pointless. What he's basically done is flip-flopped and went back on the stuff that they said they were going to do only a couple of months ago. As we see here, the usually very mild-mannered and impartial Andy Preston makes the point on X. So today, they've diluted the pledges they made 5 months ago to get elected. They promise change and honesty. They're the most crooked bunch ever. Yes, Andy, they are. But again, at least we knew what we were getting. We knew what we were getting when Labour won. Nobody was surprised. The option was more managed decline or upend the chess table, and that's what we did. We upended the chess table, and we've got what we knew we were going to get, which is total chaos. Even the AI summation was quite scathing. It says UK Prime Minister Starmer's unveiled his government's plan for change, focusing on issues like increasing police presence, housing, NHS improvements and immigration reform. His announcements have sparked mixed reactions, with critics on social media accusing him of lacking any detail and genuine reform. The political atmosphere is tense as there is significant public scrutiny and scepticism. And it's actually a bit wrong that, because the massive fluorescent elephant in the room is probably the biggest issue that the public have had for about 10 years. In fact, no longer, 15, 20 years. It was on people's lips when Blair was still in office. The I word. No, not the religious ideology that causes people to lop heads off or blow themselves up. No, the other I word. Migration. The migration target was not a milestone and did not feature in the PM's milestones. And he was pressed repeatedly by reporters about this. He said legal and illegal migration would be driven down with a serious plan that he's not interested in telling anyone about. And he said it wasn't one of his milestones because it was just one of the foundational things that we've got to do. Yeah, the single most important issue for 9 out of 10 voters wasn't a milestone. Makes loads of sense, that, doesn't it? It's the literal definition of that meme where the house is on fire and the dog's just like, oh, this is fine. How can your number one milestone not be the number one issue? You clueless, geggy charisma vacuum. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Just to drive home Andy Preston's point, the new milestone is 95% clean power by 2030. This comes only a few months after the milestone was, well, even the BBC's cover it. Before and during the election, Labour constantly spoke about zero carbon electricity by 2030, and this was what the party's manifesto promised. Sir Keir denied he was rowing back on this 100% zero carbon, telling reporters that the clean energy pledge is exactly the same. You know, exactly the same. Because 95% is definitely the exact same number as 100%. Easy. And if you don't understand that, you went to the same maths class as Diane Abacus, didn't you? 100's exactly the same as 95. Checkmate. What can you say about that? So Andy Preston's right. And the scathing response of everybody on X is right. As someone who cares passionately about our country and desperately wants Britain to succeed, Keir Starmer is not up to the job. He is a man seriously out of his depth. Starmer's milestones don't include anything about immigration or the population. This reset offers no change and guarantees economic failure. Imagine being so bad at your job you have to do a relaunch after 5 months. Yeah, imagine that. So to sum up, if you're basically a pull the plaster off accelerationist at this point like I am, it's going about as well as you knew it would. An omni-shambles of epic proportion. Stick a cricket stump in 10 Downing Street and it'd do a better job than Terry Twitter we've got there now. The UK's done. As I've told you loads of times, you better be stockpiling food and clean water because it's going to get 10 times worse before it gets any better. Immigration is the keystone that has to be settled and put in place before anything can be done. Anything. You're not going to be able to fix the NHS or the housing crisis or the schools crisis, the economic crisis. You're not going to be able to fix any of it if every single year another 1.5 million people rock up in the UK. Can I make it any clearer? And think of the other side of the coin. If we just instantly removed, I mean, you don't even have to be like militant about it, like some of the more hardcore people. If you instantly removed every single illegal alien, every person that had rocked up on a boat in the last 5 years, and every person that wasn't born in the UK that has committed a crime in the last decade in the United Kingdom, you'd probably instantly eject about 3 million people and poof, overnight, everything's better. The NHS is basically fixed because there's 3 million less people to use it. There's places in schools, there's jobs for people that need them, and crikey, you can even get on a bus that's not crowded and the traffic's not going to be as bad. It's the single biggest issue. And none of his pledges have anything to do with it. So, as Farage said, this is going to achieve less than nought. All right? But that's just what I think. If you think he's secretly playing 4D chess and he's the greatest Prime Minister we've ever had, please let me know in the comments. And then follow up by sending me your name and address, and I will send the padded van round for you so you can get locked in a room with rubber wallpaper and spoon-fed mashed banana for the rest of your natural life, you absolute plank. All right? That's me for the day. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.